Summon the Spectre. Summon the Spectre.
Ladies and gentlemen, if this is your very first time tuning in, welcome. Very, very happy to have you. We have a lot to talk about. We have a lot to celebrate on this very special live episode 18 of the SpectreVerse Podcast.
Summon the Spectre.
I am none other than your host, JariSpectre, aka the Spectre, Jayden Mercer, and allow me to introduce each and every single one of you to my pet project. I am very excited. Very excited to say, without a shadow of a doubt, the Spectre is official. And needless to say, it's going to be a hell of an episode. I'm very, very excited. I apologize, you guys. This is what happens when you try to go live. Needless to say, where you can find me pretty much at any and all times. I'm very, very happy to finally get this thing off the ground and running. That's what's going on. Needless to say, I'm very confused as to why a little too high. Let me. Set too high. Here we go. Let's try this. Okay. I'm hoping I fixed it. You guys can let me know. Hopefully I fixed it. I know it was being a little weird before, but let me know, please, in the chat if everything is looking good now, finally. I think I must have had a setting wrong of some way, but either way, episode 12. Thank you. Thank you, Apris. I appreciate you. Shout out to Apris, aka Preston Palmer. My guy. Thank you. Yeah, it turns out I had one of my settings a little too high. But either way, we're back. So, episode 18. Very special, very important. We are strictly just going to be talking about... J-Bone says it's showing better for me now. Perfect. All right, we got it fixed. Sorry about that, guys. I appreciate it. Episode 18. 14 months ago. Something I never quite imagined happening actually happened. It was actually probably one of my worst nightmares. And ever since I joined wrestling, my goal was, okay, let's try not to get hurt. Obviously, we know what happens inside of the ring. And needless to say, that's exactly what happened. I ended up getting injured. And it was off of something so stupid, if we're being completely honest. It was very, very stupid how I got injured. So today, we're going to talk about the injury. We're going to talk about the surgery, the rehab, my time off, what I've been doing, how I've been coping, and just the build up to what happened this past Saturday. This past Saturday was ACW Wisconsin's Water City Wrestling Con. Easily, by far, one of the biggest shows in Wisconsin for the world of pro wrestling all year round. And I made my surprise return after being out for 14 months. So I believe, before we even jump into it, you know what? Another celebration. Let's get some air horns. How about that? Where's Mike Breen on the call? Mike? We're just gonna have some fun here tonight. This is what the SpectreVerse is. We hang out, we shoot the shit, and you guys get to see a very real side of me, a side that I guarantee a lot of people have not seen from me other than what they see inside of the ring. But I'm very, very happy. And let's just start with the injury. It happened April 6th, 2025. I'm also I don't have any notes. I'm just going off of what I can remember right off the dome piece. April 6th, 2025. ACW, we had a show. I think it was the go home show for Water City Wrestling Con 2025. So we had that show on Friday, and then we did a spot show that weekend down in Milwaukee. It was the Midwest Gaming Classic. Very, very fun convention. If you guys are into gaming or just art, comic books, superheroes, video games, like I said, that convention is super fun. Go check it out. But ACW went down there and we did some pro wrestling down there as one of the attraction events that was going on that weekend. And I believe I was wrestling Miles Mason. It was just a tune-up match because I believe I was supposed to wrestle Kevon Lee last year at Wrestling Con. And it was a tune-up match to just stay loose, get ready for that. And I was the current Water City champion at the time. And I shit you not, that title, I don't know who all has ever held that title, just off of like, here, can you hold this? Or hey, you want to quick hold the title? Anybody that has held that title knows for a fact that title is heavy. It's a very heavy belt. I want to say, honestly, it's probably anywhere from 30, 35 pounds, maybe 40 if we're pushing it. But I was the champion at the time. And anybody that knows me or has seen me wrestle, during my entrance, I always go to the top rope, spread my arms out like this. It's my signature thing. I do it every single entrance. So I'm doing that pose, and I'm holding up the Water City title. And as I hop down from the top rope, my legs go straight and my knee buckles. It doesn't pop, it buckles. And excuse my language, but I felt an instant pain just run down my legs, and fair warning, and I said, motherfucker. And I raised up the title and I played it off like nothing was wrong. Meanwhile, I guarantee the people that were watching that match knew something was wrong. And so I lock up with Miles, and obviously, and this is, breaking the fourth wall, high fourth wall. He asked me, are you all right? And I said, if I fall, we're done. But I never fell, shockingly enough. We got through that match, and as soon as I got to the locker room, I just laid on that dirty, nasty floor, holding my knee set, and all I kept saying was, something's wrong. I don't know what it is, but something's wrong. So I was like, okay. We're in Milwaukee. I'm far from home at this point. And so I decided, I was like, obviously I'm in the car with Gen Z. So I know I got to take him back to Oshkosh, drop him off at the training academy. So we drive back to Oshkosh, drop him off. We say our goodbyes. And then I drive home. I drive home and get home. And I start icing my knee. Just typical athlete stuff. If you're in pain, you ice it, put some heat on it, and just let it rest. That night, I could not walk. I crawled. So this is my office. My bedroom is on the other side here. I get out of my bed, and I crawl here just to grab this chair, to wheel myself, to crawl up my steps leading to the attic to find my crutches. That was my night in a nutshell. Next day, I could not walk. My very close friends got a video of me attempting to walk the next day. I genuinely couldn't do it. Honestly, could not do it. And I ended up going into urgent care. Well, actually, no, I went to work. I did my shoot job from 9 to 5. And as soon as that was done, I drove straight to urgent care. And I was like, I need to get this looked at. And on top of that, I had Swoggle texting me, Colucci texted me, Salem texted me, my parents texted me. We were just like, okay, I need to get this looked at. Obviously, this is not supposed to be like this. Now, in the back of my mind, I'm thinking something's torn. Like, there's no way that I would be in this much pain. Obviously, I have a very high pain tolerance, but I just knew, I was like, there's got to be something torn. Whether it's an MCL, PCL, whatever. I did not think it was the ACL. Sure enough, urgent care sends me to this knee specialist. So I go to see the knee specialist and literally sit down, first time meeting him, shake hands. He's like, so tell me what happened. So I give him the long story less long. He's like, all right, let me see your knee. So have it out for him. All he does is one little simple tug on my knee. And from the bottom of my kneecap down, shifted forwards. And the rest of my legs stood still. And anybody that has either had a torn ACL or anything like that, that's your first indication. Yep, you probably tore your ACL. And he straight up told me that. He's like, if I was a betting man, I guarantee it's torn. But obviously, you know what we're going to have to do. We got to go get the MRI. We got to see what really is it. So we scheduled the MRI. And this was end of April. So at this point, Wrestling Con for me, I'm like, there is a now 95% chance I'm not wrestling at Con. So go get the MRI done. You guys, if you saw the video package that was on the Jayden Mercer page, or if you were at Wrestling Con Live, you saw that image of me in that gown giving the thumbs up. That was right before my MRI. So we get it done, and anybody that's done an MRI, they suck. There's no way to put it, because you're inside this machine, and if you're claustrophobic, good luck, Charlie. That ain't happening. But if you're inside this machine and you have to stay perfectly still, you cannot move a muscle for 30 minutes. So I'm sitting there just staring up at the lights, something I'm kind of good at, and just literally stuck there inside this machine. And obviously you don't get the results back right away. So it's just like, okay, go on about your merry way. Following Monday, I have a follow-up appointment. And as I'm in the waiting room, I feel my phone buzz. So I take a look. Oh, your results are in. All right, let's check it out. Click on it. Torn ACL, partially torn meniscus, grade A sprain of the MCL. And I immediately started laughing. I was just like, I knew it. I knew something was wrong. I was like, there were people that were being very optimistic. Hey, going back to Apra since he's watching, screw you, by the way. He, during that car ride from the Midwest Gaming Classic all the way to Oshkosh, he's just like, dog, you're complaining. Your knee is fine. Everything's going to be fine. Well, who's laughing now, buddy? Anyways. He says, don't out me out. What a guy. But either way, so I'm laughing in the waiting room, reading these results. And so I text my girlfriend, because obviously she's trying to be Miss Optimistic. And I was just like, I knew it. I absolutely knew it. There's no other way to do it. I knew something was wrong, and sure as shit, here we are. Then I text Swoggle, and I said, hey, just got my results back. What do you want to do? Obviously, everybody is dying to see me versus Kevon, which, I mean, obviously it's going to happen someday. But I was just like, this sucks. Like, there's no other way to sugarcoat it. It sucks. It's a match that I personally wanted, a match that we were all looking forward to see. And it's just like it got screwed over by a silly but major injury. And so I asked Swoggle, I said, what do you want to do? And he said, well, would you be willing to take a power bomb and a pin? And I said, I don't think my doctor would like that so much. And so maybe we should just be straight up honest. Maybe we just tell him now, hey, I got injured and we'll find a replacement. And we ended up not going that route. And instead we ended up just we just ended up going with the, let's just announce it at con. It's a shitty thing to do, but I get it. It's obviously, there's no good way to do it, especially if you post it on Facebook like that, to be like, hey, this happened, and then here I would have to be also on social media. A guy, keep in mind, my character at the time is he's supposed to be spooky. He's supposed to be this, almost like this weird mix of House of Black, Malachi Black, Hollywood Undead, Green Goblin guy. Like, he's like Kendrick Lamar. He's like the boogeyman of ACW. Just pops out and does whatever. Right? And so we're just like, okay, we'll announce it at Con 2025. And I did my best to just keep it a secret. Obviously, I wasn't thrilled about it because I knew how many people were looking forward to that match. But I went out there in my crutches, and it's crazy enough, especially now watching it 1 year later, as I'm out there just doing my best to show Jayden Mercer, but deep down inside is, it's me. And it's just like, I can't, like, there's no way to blur that line in my head. Like, I'm like this, I can't physically feel like Jayden Mercer right now. Like, I can put the paint on, I can do the act, but I can't do it. So we get to con, and I'm just depressed out of my mind. Literally. I'm like, I can walk fine. Like, some of you, I'm sure, saw me walking around. And granted, you can walk on a torn ACL. That's really not that hard. But you just can't do any running. You can't cut, you can't run, you can't jump. Literally anything athletic, you're kind of screwed. J Bones says, were you using the crutches before the show at the merch stand before you went out to make the announcement? No, I was not. I did that on purpose because, like I said, torn ACL, you can actually walk on, depending on how severe the damage is around it. And you can walk without pain. But like I said, you can't run, you can't jump. Even if you walk too fast, you can really start to feel it. Thankfully, I did enough icing and just treatment to my knee that I could at least walk fine afterwards because a bunch of the swelling decided to go down. But even if all that swelling goes down, you still have a torn ligament in your knee. Like, you can only do so much. And that's why you even hear stories of other people that have torn their ACLs and they won't even go to get surgery on it. Obviously, surgery is highly recommended for athletes. I mean, you see it all the time, NFL, NBA. I mean, you can choose not to get the surgery and you'll still eventually be fine. But you're still going to then deal with all the lingering issues after the fact. And I said, me personally, I don't want to do that. I figure it's probably best to just get the surgery and literally just start from square one and build my way back up. Obviously, this is not my first injury. I've had 3 surgeries on my hip. I've had ankle surgery. So now I just have another knee surgery. So this process is nothing new. But going out there at con, cutting that very real promo, and I took a good chunk of time trying to figure out what to say. And I think I nailed that promo fairly well. The one thing I totally forgot to leave out during the promo, though, this is a little haha, was all of my merch money was going to my hospital bill. Totally left that part out of the promo. I'm sure I probably would have sold out on shirts if I did it that way. But either way, on top of cutting that promo, there were people that honestly thought that I was kidding and that I was going to hit Kevon with the crutch and then actually do the match in my street clothes. Which is kind of funny looking back at it, but in that moment, like as soon as I made that announcement and I said I had to relinquish the title, I know it was probably hard to see, especially with all the paint on. I was bawling my eyes out. It wasn't until towards that latter half of the promo where I literally had to try to calm myself back down. And I know for a fact, and even just watching it back a couple months ago, like it really does hit home. It really hits the heartstrings. And it was sad. It was literally like being forced to leave something that you loved so much. And it wasn't by choice. Like you were just like, okay, I have to do this. And it sucked. And, we got through it. Obviously, a lot of people said their temporary goodbyes. And that next weekend was Memorial Day weekend. And I had that surgery. Amanda says, I hate to admit it. When I see that clip of you announcing, I cried. See, it was hard. It really was hard. But we got through it. And then that Memorial Day weekend, it was that Wednesday, I had surgery. And the surgery was a complete success. What they did was, so I'm going to do my best to have visuals with my hands. So here's my knee, right? You obviously got, I believe it's the PCL, if I remember correctly, and then your ACL. So ACL was pretty much like this. And obviously you got your meniscus up here and down here, and then my MCL. So this is sprained. There's nothing you can do about that. But they took the torn ligament, completely chopped it out. So now there was nothing there. And part of my meniscus right up here was cracked. They didn't know, based on the MRI, how cracked it was. But they said, if you're getting the surgery, obviously we're going to cut you open. We'll just take a look when we go in. I was like, all right, cool. And during surgery day, I remember I was sitting in there with my mom and my girlfriend. And, we were just shooting the shit. We're having fun. And the doctors and the nurses are like, are you nervous? And I said, no, I'm not nervous. This is not my first surgery. It's, I'll be fine. So we got through it. Apris, all right, Jerry. Been fun hanging out. All right, Apris, we'll see you later. Back to my story. So, surgery day, we're shooting the shit, we're having fun. And, the nurses and the doctors, they're asking me, okay, so what happened? Like, literally walk me through step by step, which I just did with you guys. I'm not going to do it again. And they were all in shock. And they were just like, we had no idea that pro wrestling was even like a thing around here. And so I put a lot of nurses and doctors onto pro wrestling, I guess. So that was cool. But the surgery was a huge success. They took my patellar graft and replaced it, and that became my new ACL. So I got the patellar one done. Since I know there's a lot of different options out there, I chose to go with that one. And as far as the meniscus went, it wasn't as bad as they presumed it to be. It was only just a little sliver. So all they did, they just cut that part out and then just shaved it to essentially form a new one. So all that was good. It was a huge success, like I posted after the fact. And then I had to sit. And I had to sit for a very, very long time. It was a lot of just trying to get back to the quote-unquote normal life, if that makes sense. Obviously, I wasn't able to go to work, but thankfully with my job, I was able to work from home, so I was still making money. Insurance definitely helped too. Granted, I did have to have a few battles here and there because what is quote-unquote deemed as an extreme sport versus a hobby, per se. Definitely had to have that battle, but eventually it ended up being all right. So, I mean, the money was tough. We got through it by the skin of our teeth, thankfully. I always thank God every day for that. And then I just had to literally start rehab day one. That 2 days after surgery. All right, we're going into rehab right away. When I got done with surgery, they looked at my leg and they said, honestly, I don't think you need a brace. Now, keep in mind, all the research I'd done ever since I got my MRI results is, okay, you're going to get a brace. This is what the step-by-step procedure usually is going to be. And when they said, yeah, you're not going to get a brace, I said, what do you mean I'm not going to get a brace? Like, did I do something wrong? Or is it not in the budget this year? Like, what is it? They said no. Turns out I had so much leg mass, obviously from just weightlifting, and not to toot my own horn, leg day is usually my strongest day. I, for whatever reason, decide to just go balls to the wall every leg day for no reason whatsoever. So they said I had so much leg muscle left over. They feel like I will be fine with what I have right now, meaning I don't need a brace. So I was like, okay, great. I don't need a brace. But obviously I still got my crutches and I'm walking, still straight legged, but we go to rehab on Monday and we're already immediately starting to bend the leg. And Jesus Christ, that first month of rehab sucked. It was just god awful. And actually, fun fact, and this is going to be me circling back. This is what happens when I don't have notes, and this is what happens when we're just shooting from the hip. Before my surgery, I took a shot in the dark. I reached out to a professional wrestler that most of you have heard the name. I Instagram DM'd Tommaso Ciampa. Why I did that was because, one, Milwaukee native. I mean, obviously, he's not from Milwaukee, but he lived here for years. So just that Wisconsin bond. Two, if you know me personally, you know I am a huge fan of NXT Black and Gold when Triple H was down there running it. I got back into wrestling because of that. It was because of the feud between him and Gargano. And when he tore his ACL, as soon as I got my results, I was just like, oh my God, a guy that I looked up to that had the exact same injury, same thing happened to me. Obviously, his was more scary than mine. Mine was just a funny injury. His was very, very serious, and it was televised. So I shot him a message, and I asked for advice. And he actually responded back to me, and he gave me some very good advice. I'm not going to obviously go into it, because that's just between me and him. It was very much a lot of just, long story less long, it was the first couple months are going to suck, but eventually you're going to get through it. Just keep working at it, and obviously just don't ever stop. Very, very simple advice, and I appreciated that. J-Bone says, hell yeah, Black and Gold NXT days were the best. They were the best. I mean, shit, you could get me on a fucking tangent about NXT Black and Gold. Especially like that time frame, I would say, from like when Shinsuke was there up until like the end, like COVID era. That was easily the best NXT Black and Gold. Ciampa, Gargano, Black, Undisputed Era, War Raiders. I mean, Ricochet. You could go on and on and on, right? But that's not what we're here to talk about today. So we get through the surgery. I'm already doing rehab, and it sucked. There was a lot of like, hey, we're going to try to get your knee to bend to a 30-degree angle. Then it was, okay, the next week, let's get it to a 90. So on and so forth. By month 2, not even. So month 1, if I remember correctly, I was already off my crutches. Obviously, I bought myself a brace at Dunham's for like $20 just to be safe. By the start of month 2, I was already on the bike. And that helped a lot because you're constantly getting your knee to bend over and over. And especially when you put some resistance on like those bikes at the gym, they help big time. By month 3, I was already jumping. Take that in for a second. By month 3, I was already jumping, or at least starting to. By month 4, I was running. A lot of those clips that you guys saw in that video package was the first half of recovery, as far as from the injury. I was cleared by month 6. And I personally was shocked by that. I just, for whatever reason, anytime it would come to rehab or leg day, once I was able to get the green light to officially kind of just be able to go to the gym, they said obviously start light and work your way up. And I did follow that. But then I would be remiss to say by month 3, when I had the green light to do almost everything, they'd be like, oh, so what'd you do today? And I'd come back and I said, yeah, I just leg pressed like 380 pounds, you know, nothing crazy. And they're like, what? I was like, what? That's light. I'm like, that's half of the weight that I normally do. And, you know, so I had to remind them. I was like, I kind of gave them the numbers prior to my injury. So they're like, okay, I guess, as long as you're being safe. And I was like, yeah, I'm good. By month 6, I was cleared. But now, what was I doing between month 6 and month 14? Obviously, I was still working on getting right and just making sure that I had all my P's and Q's just taken care of. But I spent a lot of that time just enjoying my life. It was a lot of, and this is probably around like that holiday season. So this is kind of like fall going into the winter. So I'm very much just like, okay, I just want to take time to just really let my body just rest. Because you think about it, when I graduated high school in 2017, I was fresh off of football and basketball. And then I went to college and it took like a year of just nothing. And then pretty much I started training around 2019 is when I started training for pro wrestling. And so, but then obviously we were down with COVID for like 4 months, you know? And I was just like, ever since then, I've been go, go, go. You know, I was just, you know, we graduated pro wrestling. That was what, 2021. So yeah, pretty much for 5 years, I've just been go, go, go. So I was like, and God forbid you get cleared from a very major injury, you know, at least 3 to 6 months early. The last thing you want to do is just jump right back into it. You know what I mean? So I really wanted to take the time to just pace myself and just let my body fully rest. So I was dialed in. Like if you know me personally, I was dialed into college football. I'm a huge college football guy. Look back there. I got some helmets. Michigan Wolverine helmet. I'm a big Michigan fan. Second is the Badgers, but Michigan is always going to be my number one. Then obviously for NFL, Packer whiteout. And then I got my Carolina Panthers because those are my 2 favorite teams. But besides the fact, I was just dialed into football. Obviously, my girlfriend and I just spending time with the family, spending time with her family, and just, you know, living very normal, at least for a good 3 months. And then 2026 started, and I was just like, I had the conversation with Swoggle, and they're like, are you ready to come back? And I said, yes, but I don't know when. And so it was a lot of just trying to figure out what that would look like, you know? And so as that's starting, I'm like, in my head, I'm like, okay, here are my options here. I'm like, we could either bring me back right away at either a Masonic or a Tanner's, but I was like, I feel like something like this, if I announced that I was injured at con, I feel like it should be a little bigger. So now here are my options. I was like, we could bring me back at con. If I'm not feeling ready quite yet, there's the Rumble. And worst case scenario, there's Anniversary for 2026. So I was like, those are my 3 options. He said, I'm cool with any of those. You just let me know which one. I said, all right, cool. Week before my birthday is at the end of January. I got a doctor's appointment. And this ended up being my last doctor's appointment. He gave me because he just wanted to see me do a few drills, which I did, knocked him out of the park. And he pretty much said, at this point, you can go back to the ring whenever you would like. I was like, all right, cool. So my birthday weekend, I actually went to camp and I took a few bumps, hit the ropes a few times, and did a few buckles. That was it. I did not want to take any moves. I didn't want to give any moves. I just wanted to shake some of that movement off. And I had a couple coaches there, and they're like, it looked like, exactly what it did before you were injured. So I said, all right, cool. And so I got up and I was like, all right, I'm gone. That's all I needed. Then March comes around. And this time I'm like, all right, I'm going to go back again. Do the same thing. This time I'm like, okay, I want to give a few moves. I just want to see what I can do. So I do my neck breaker. I did the side effect. Did my corner sequence. I did all those cool things. And everything felt good. Apparently everything looked good. And then I was like, okay, here's the real test. The knee I tore is the exact same knee that I used for like 90% of my offense. Obviously, if you guys watch me wrestle, it's a lot of bicycle knees. That was actually part of my finish, was a bicycle knee. And I was like, I jump off of the knee that got injured. So I want to see if I can do it. I try it. It doesn't look good. Try it again. Still doesn't look good. And then for at least 8 more tries, it still wasn't looking good. And at this point, I'm like, crap. Just another obstacle. But I was like, it feels fine. I just don't feel like I'm jumping high enough. They're like, okay, well, then you just got to get back in the gym and just keep pushing yourself. And I was like, all right, I can do that. April comes around, so maybe 3 weeks later, hit it on the first try. And I was stoked. It's like you have a goal. And you don't get it the first couple tries. But if you just keep working at it and you just keep trying and you keep trying to get better and you keep taking the right steps to do it, eventually you're going to hit that goal. And that's exactly what I did. I just kept working at it and I got it on the first try, and I was just, people at camp, they literally saw me get out of the ring. I was sprinting around out of excitement. And, it was a very, very cool thing. And so did a few other moves and everything looked good, felt good. And I was like, all right, we'll see you guys at con. And I pretty much just dipped. And then from there, obviously, I stayed heavy with the gym workouts. And at this point now, I was smart to say, I already know in the back of my mind that I want to make a return. Because I'll be honest, during the summer of last year, I genuinely did not think I was going to come back. Part of me was just like, this is it. Like, that's the last thing they're going to remember, is me and this very real injury and saying I'm done. But part of me was just like, I can't let that happen. I can't go out like that. And that is partially the reason why we got what we did this past Saturday when I returned. I said, I can't go out like that. Obviously, I'm not done. I'm actually just getting started. This is the start of the real Spectre. And so during that whole process, that first 6 months, I was taking videos because I wanted from the very first day I was out of surgery, which was that first clip of me walking in my kitchen on crutches. I wanted that all the way to the end. And thankfully, I remembered to actually stay with it and videotape myself so that I could eventually come on to here at my little computer setup that I got here and actually edit and make a video package for it. And I was just like, I finally had all the clips down and I knew the format of what I wanted to do. And I'm looking at it and I'm just watching it, but keep in mind there's no sound. And I was like, it's great, but what is it missing? And I was like, obviously it's missing music. Okay, well I start hopping my phone and I'm scrolling through my playlist like, okay, what would be a good song for for this video package? And it actually boiled down to like 3 different songs. 3 of them. And this was, I want to say, God, I forget when it came out, but it was kind of towards the latter half of last year. I'm a big, I wouldn't say metal guy. I do love me some metal, but I also love country. I love hip hop. I love a lot of that stuff. And honestly, hip hop was going to be one of like the genres that I picked for that video package. J Bones, what were my final 3 songs? Let me pull up. It's funny you ask. I'm like, I got all the time in the world. I'm actually going to take a sip of this because I'm still actually, I blew my voice out during my entrance on Saturday. So I've been trying to talk as light as I possibly could. My 3 songs that I ended up choosing, it was Ali Boombaye by The Game, which if you play video games, that song is from Grand Theft Auto 5. Love that song. I do. It's on my gym playlist. The other one was Run for Cover by Phantom Passenger and King Green, which was from, I'm not sure how into TV series you guys are, but it was from Power. I don't know if you guys have ever seen Power before. I watched that back in 2022, 23, I think. And I loved that song, and I added it to my playlist. And then the other one was Till I Collapse by Eminem. Those were my 3 songs that I was going to choose from. But then one of my favorite rock bands dropped a single, and that was Bad Omens. If you guys are a big fan of Bad Omens, I think their music's phenomenal. But they released a song called Spectre. Obviously, it's not spelt the same, but I listened to it, and I loved it. And I was like, it's a very slow song. But then the first time I remember the first time I listened to that song and that ending hit, and I went, oh my God, this is sick. And then I was just like, the more I would be in the gym, the more I would start listening to it. And I was like, Jaris, what are you thinking? That's your song. And sure enough, so I downloaded the song, put it on my computer, and then I played it, and I just cut and paste all the clips to like match the beat at the end. And I was like, oh my God. And then I obviously tweaked the beginning because I was like, I know if I know my fans the way I do, it is, especially when it comes to the Spectre, they appreciate the Easter eggs. And I was like, obviously at this point, like the insiders know I'm returning at Con. And so I played it for Gen Z. I played it for Salem Crane. And I was like, give me your honest thoughts and opinions. And them hearing the Spectre, the acapella at the beginning, it popped them. And I was like, okay, if it pops them, it pops me. I know for a fact it's going to pop my diehard fans, the cult Spectre Club fans. And I was like, I got to keep that in there. And that's exactly what I did. And sure enough, thankfully for you guys, it worked. I went back and I re-listened to some of the fan footage that people caught of my return entrance, and they said as soon as they heard the word Spectre, everybody's ears perked up. You know what I mean? And then on top of that, the video package, people were like, wait a second. And obviously seeing the 1 year ago and then immediately cuts to my face. I'm like, if they didn't get the hints by then, hopefully them seeing that image of me from last year rings a bell. And sure enough, it did. I was so... That day at WrestlingCon, it scared the ever-living daylights out of me. J-Bone says, I'm a big rock metal fan as well, so I recognize that Bad Omens right away. See, it's a great song. And then he also follows that up by saying, that video package was so well done. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. Spent a lot of time just having that be my pet project. And so that day at WrestlingCon, like, I knew, like, I had like that pit in my stomach of like, I hope the match goes well. I hope everything goes as smoothly executed as humanly possible. I'm like, I know for a fact, personally, I'm like, I'm as good as I can be. Do I feel 100%? I would say a good 95%. Like, I'm going to have to listen to that song. I listen to all kinds of music. Yes, it's a very good song. I would highly recommend you go listen to it. But I just remember I had that pit in my stomach of like, one, I just hope everything goes well. I hope the match goes well. But most importantly, obviously, I know my limitations. I know being fresh off of an injury and this being my first match back, I'm like, I'm not expecting a 5-star classic. I'm just expecting to do the best that I humanly can at this point. But my big concern was, I hope they remembered me. For whatever reason, just being out for 14 months, I was just like, God, I hope that at least some people remember me and remember what I was doing. I didn't think the entire arena was going to remember me. And by God, when that video package hit and that first initial pop hit, I just remember being in that backstage hallway just shaking. I was so nervous. But then as, the video package end and the music starts and that eruption, I could feel like the ground shake. I don't know if it was because I was that close to the base or if that was from you guys. I genuinely couldn't tell the difference. And so I made my way up and I'm standing there waiting for that summon the Spectre once again. And as soon as it hits and I come out, everything around me shook. And when I make my entrance, here's just a little fun fact of just how I do it. When I come out, I always look at the ground so that I can eventually look up and see everything. And when I looked up, it was like I was at a Travis Scott concert. People were jumping, kids were going crazy, hands were flailing up in the air. And I went, holy shit. Like, obviously I was wearing my brand new mask. But I was just like, holy shit. So I was like, I can't do my entrance with the hood and the mask on. So I ripped it off and I was just like, I got to match this energy. And by God, I was so exhausted after my entrance. I'm not going to lie, but it was so fulfilling and so just overwhelming. And I genuinely was so happy to be back. Being put in such a shitty situation, to fight out of it and to get back to what I love doing. That's my why. Literally just to try and get back to what fulfills me. And obviously it wasn't easy. It definitely wasn't easy. I contemplated retirement. I started up this YouTube channel, which, other than the little, mess up that I had with my settings earlier, I like to think I do a pretty decent job around here, Obviously, I'm doing my pro wrestling content. I do a little gaming here and there on here, which, by the way, if you guys are new, please hit the like button and please hit that subscribe button. We're obviously trying to grow this bad boy from the ground up, and I would appreciate it if you guys definitely stuck around and hit that subscribe button. But this is literally what I've been doing. It was trying to get back to where I was, on top of trying to also figure out, okay, what is next for the Spectre outside of the ring? What does the Spectre mean? And that's why I started this YouTube channel. I started it to start to move the wheels forward of what does life after wrestling look like. And obviously I know for a fact that I want the Spectre to remain forever. I want the legacy not just to be in the ring, but to be what I do outside the ring. I very much took on the persona of, it's not just the feeling of being forgotten anymore, not the forgotten one. It's, this is who I am, and I embrace it. And I let other people that may have felt that way before, I let them embrace it. This is my Spectre Club. Welcome to the SpectreVerse. This is for us. And so I was very, very dialed in as to making this a reality. And I built this thing from the ground up. Obviously, it's spent a good chunk of money to do it. But like, this is what I've always wanted to do. It was pro wrestling and content creating. Finally sticking to it, and I'm so happy to see it's actually like paying off a little bit. Amanda says, that's exactly why I said you're an inspiration to your fans and all those kids who look up to you. And that means the world. That's why I continue to do this. I want to be an inspiration to people. When times are tough, you just got to keep fighting through it. It's not dwelling on the bad. Obviously, everybody has bad moments. Not everybody's perfect. I sure as hell am not perfect. But to just keep pushing forward and to keep working. Enjoy the celebrations that you have now and always try to get better no matter what. Every single day, try to challenge yourself. And that's one way that I love living. But honestly, I think we did all right for ourselves. Obviously, the match, I thought, turned out very, very well. Shout out to Kaiser. Shout out to Wyatt. Both hell of wrestlers. They both have also grown so much since the last time I was in an ACW locker room. And I'm genuinely very happy to be back. I don't know how long I'm going to be back for, but damn it, I got some matches I need to cross off my bucket list. And I got some gold that I also want to cross off that list as well. But that's going to pretty much do it for this very fun, celebratory live episode of the SpectreVerse Podcast. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Like I said, if you did, hit the like button, hit that subscribe button, turn on the bell for notifications. I talk about wrestling every week on here. I normally upload a podcast once a week, every Wednesday before Dynamite comes out. Just kind of talking about what's going on in the world of wrestling. I also love talking about football, basketball, gaming, you name it. And with that being said, before we log off here, I'm going to open up the floor to each and every single one of you. If there's anything that you guys want to ask me personally, or if you guys want to just talk, now would be the time to do it. I'm very open, for the most part, about my thoughts and opinions on certain things. I know this is pretty much the first time that people have actually seen me outside of the Spectre character, so this guy says, J-Bones, go Spurs. See, I do like the Spurs. I will say that. Do I think the Thunder are going to pull it off? I think they're going to win tonight. There's no way they're going down 2-0 this early on in the season. It's the conference finals. Like, if they lose tonight and they go and play in San Antonio both nights for games 3 and 4, they're cooked. They're absolutely cooked. Wemby is so stinking unstoppable, and I think he actually got robbed of MVP. That's my personal opinion. But we'll have to wait and see. Pretty much as soon as we're done on here, I'm probably going to go watch the game. I'm being completely honest. Amanda says, when is my next show? My next show... Geez. This is how you know that I don't quite know my own... I think it's the T-Rats ACW event, if I remember correctly. I believe that one's that middle of July. July 17th, July 18th. Somewhere in the middle of July. Whatever the Timber Rattlers event is, that's my next event. And I believe that's the same weekend. I think it goes T-Rats, Freak Toys on Saturday, and then Tanner's on Sunday. So that'll be my 3-weekend bender for wrestling. And then after that, I think Wrestle Bash. I think that's the weekend after. So July is going to be very, wrestling filled, but it's going to be great. J-Bone says, I think OKC evens the series tonight too. Yeah, there's no way that, you're going to let San Antonio come in and have Wemby put up, 24 rebounds and 41 points. You're going to have him do that again. But I also feel like Shea, although he had 24, he did have a very underwhelming performance in game 1. I don't think that happens again in game 2. And I also feel like Chet Holmgren will actually show up a little bit. So definitely something to keep an eye out for. I'll have to keep an eye on the shows. We are on vacation for those weekends. Hey, enjoy your vacation. Enjoy it. It's going to be fun. Can't wait for Wrestle Bash. Dude, I shit you not, when I saw that Wrestle Bash was a thing, obviously I didn't go because I wanted to just stay hidden, but I pretty much got all the videos and all the photos from Wrestle Bash, and it looked so stupidly fun. And just seeing everybody play a different character and actually fully embrace it and have fun with it, it was awesome. And I can't wait to be a part of it this year. It's going to be great. Anything else? Any questions that you guys have for me personally? Anything that maybe we didn't cover throughout this hour? Is there anything that you guys are pressing about before we log off for the evening? I think that's pretty much it. Not mistaken. I think I've seen anything else pop up here. Give it another minute or so, and then we will probably call it a night. But like I said, I hope you guys enjoyed this. It's a very fun live episode. I've never actually only gone live just a handful of times, and so it was very cool to actually do it again. Go enjoy the playoff hoop, man. Have a good one. You have a good one too, J Bones. I appreciate you for sticking around and listen to me ramble. Appreciate it. But with that being said, that's going to do it for episode 18. Obviously, next week we're going to get right back to the pro wrestling talk. But this was very much a celebratory episode. Very happy for myself and definitely can't wait to keep things pushing forward. That's going to do it here. So, like I said, we'll see you guys next week. Peace out, everybody.
Summon the Spectre.